Prologue: The Ancient Wild Magic. In the beginning, when the world was still young and the stars sang their first songs to the newborn earth, there came a night unlike any other. The moon, full and luminous, hung low in the velvet sky, spilling silver light across the vast, untouched wilderness. Its glow touched the rivers and made them shimmer like liquid starlight. It caressed the mountains and clothed them in ethereal mist. It poured into the endless forests and awakened something deep within the soil itself. From that sacred union of moonlight and earth was born the wild magic. It was not a gentle spell whispered by mortals, nor a crafted enchantment of later ages. It was raw, primal, alive, the very heartbeat of the world made manifest. It flowed like rivers of silver fire through the veins of the land, gathering strongest in those creatures who answered the moon's call. Thus were born the great wolves. They emerged from shadow and light, fur as dark as midnight, or pale as frost, eyes glowing with the moon's own fire. They were the children of wild magic, guardians of the forests, runners of the endless nights, singers of ancient songs that only the wind truly understood. Yet not all wolves bore the magic equally. In every pack, one rose above the rest, stronger, wiser, fiercer. These were the alphas, vessels of the purest strain of wild magic. To them alone belonged the gifts that set them apart, the ability to shift between wolf and man, to walk beneath the moon in either form, the near immortal span of years granted by the moon's favor, and most sacred of all, the mate bond, that deep, unbreakable pull toward the one soul meant to complete their own. For countless generations, the wild magic remained within the packs. Alphas mated with alphas, and the ancient power passed undiluted through wolf blood alone. No alpha had ever felt the mate bond stir for one outside their kind. The magic was too fierce, too untamed, to bridge the chasm between beast and mortal man. Until Ronan. He was the first, the Alpha King. Born beneath the brightest moon the world had ever seen, Ronan carried the wild magic in its most potent form. His fur was black as the void between stars, his eyes the burning gold of harvest moons. His roar could still storms, his gaze could calm the maddest tempest of the heart. All packs bowed to him, not out of fear alone, but out of recognition. He was the living embodiment of the moon's will upon the earth. His domain stretched across endless forests and hidden valleys, where caves glittered with veins of natural gold and moonstone. Treasures of the earth he guarded as fiercely as his kin. He ruled with quiet strength, with justice tempered by instinct. Yet even a king may know loneliness. Deep in his wild heart, Ronan felt an ache he could not name. The moon called to him as it always had, but lately its song carried a new note, a promise perhaps, or a longing for something yet unseen. Far beyond the borders of his realm, in the world of men, there existed another kind of gift, softer, greener, older than even the wild magic in its own quiet way. It was the harmony of nature, carried in rare human hearts, the ability to hear the whispers of trees, to feel the sorrow of blighted earth, to heal with kindness and touch. This gift had always existed in faint echoes among mortals, but in one bloodline it burned brighter than in any other. And in one woman, a princess of golden halls and gentle spirit, it waited, quiet and unawakened, for the touch of wild magic that would change the world forever. When those two ancient forces met, the fierce silver fire of the moon-born wild and the tender green-gold light of a kind heart bound to the earth, something entirely new would be born, a new people, a new magic, a new queen. This is the story of how the Fae came to be. Born not of whim or war, but of the deepest love the wild has ever known. Listen closely, for the moon is rising, and the forest still remembers. Chapter 1. The Golden Kingdom and Princess Elara. Beyond the ancient forest, where the wild magic held sway under the moon's watchful eye, lay the kingdom of Etheria, a realm of men, prosperous and proud, its banners of sapphire and gold fluttering from towers that pierced the sky. The land was rich with rivers that gleamed with veins of gold-atoll dust carried down from distant mountains, and deep mines that yielded sapphires, emeralds, and rubies as bright as captured stars. Castles of pale stone rose upon hills, their halls filled with treasures, goblets wrought of finest gold, silken tapestries embroidered with threads of silver, crowns heavy with jewels that caught the sunlight and scattered it like rainbows across marble floors. Kings and queens had ruled here for generations, their bloodlines said to carry an ancient blessing from the earth itself. Yet in all the long history of Etheria, no ruler had ever been loved as deeply as Princess Elara, only daughter of King Aldrich and Queen Leora. Elara was beautiful, yes, her hair a cascade of auburn waves that held the warmth of autumn leaves, her eyes the deep green of forest or pools after rain. But it was not her beauty that made hearts turn toward her wherever she went. It was her kindness, a gentleness so profound it seemed to radiate from her very soul, like soft sunlight through morning mist. From the moment she could walk, Elara had shown this gift. As a small child, she would wander the palace gardens, pressing her tiny hands to wilting roses until they lifted their heads once more, petals unfurling as though kissed by spring. Servants told stories of how she would sit beside ailing kitchen maids or stable boys, speaking quiet words of comfort until fever broke and pain eased. Even the fiercest war horses grew calm beneath her touch, and hunting hounds that snarled at all others would lay their great heads in her lap and sigh. But it was in nature that Elara's heart truly lived. While other princesses spent their days in embroidery and courtly dance, Elara slipped away whenever she could to the wilder edges of the kingdom. Meadows where wildflowers grew in riotous color, orchards heavy with fruit, and most of all, the great forest that bordered Etheria to the north. That forest was ancient, its trees older than any kingdom, its shadows deep and full of whispers. The people feared it, calling it the domain of beasts. For wolves were said to roam there in great packs, and strange lights sometimes danced beneath its boughs at night. Yet Elara felt no fear. To her, the forest was not a place of danger, but of welcome. She would walk barefoot along its hidden paths, feeling the cool moss beneath her feet, listening to the secrets carried on the wind. Flowers seemed to turn toward her as she passed. Birds sang more sweetly when she was near. She spoke to the trees in a soft voice, as though they were old friends, and sometimes, Though she told no one, she could almost hear them answer. A blighted grove she once found, its oaks dying from some unseen wound, had greened again weeks after she spent a full day there, weeping for their pain and laying her palms against their rough bark. Her father, the king, marveled at her gifts, calling them the soft magic of their ancient bloodline. "You have your mother's heart," he would say, "and something older still. The earth remembers you, child." But the court physicians and advisers shook their heads, insisting it was merely a gentle disposition, nothing more. Elara herself felt the truth deeper, that she and the living world shared a quiet language, one of kindness and listening. Still, for all the love she gave and received, Elara carried a quiet ache within her. In the gilded halls of the palace, surrounded by riches and admiration, she felt strangely apart. Suitors came from distant lands, princes bearing chests of gold and jewels, promising thrones and power. Yet none stirred her heart. Their words felt hollow beside the song of a thrush at dawn, or the rustle of leaves in evening breeze. She smiled politely, danced as duty required, but her spirit yearned for something wilder, something true. On the eve of her 20th year, as summer ripened into gold, Elara stood upon her balcony overlooking the northern forest. The sun was setting, painting the sky in rose and amber, and far in the distance the treetops shimmered like a dark sea. A strange restlessness filled her, a pull, gentle yet insistent, toward those shadowed depths. That night, she dreamed of silver moonlight pouring through branches, of eyes like burning gold, watching her with wonder rather than hunger, of a presence both fierce and tender, that made her heart race with something between fear and longing. When she awoke, the pull remained. The next morning, against the protests of her guards and the worried pleas of her mother, Elara rode out alone toward the forest border, not for a brief ride along its edge as she usually did, but deeper, drawn by something she could not name. She did not yet know that the wild magic itself was reaching out to meet her kindness at last, and that beyond the border, beneath the watchful gaze of the greatest moon the world had ever known, Ronan, the Alpha King, was already turning toward her scent on the wind, feeling for the first time the mate bond stir in his ancient heart. Chapter 2. Ronan, King of the Wild. Deep within the endless forest, where no human road had ever dared to carve its way, lay the heart of the wild realm, a place of ancient power and untamed beauty that mortals only whispered of in fearful tales. Here the trees rose like titans, their trunks wider than castle towers, their branches interwoven into a canopy so thick that sunlight fell in scattered golden motes, and moonlight poured through in rivers of silver. Rivers sang over stones veined with natural gold, and hidden caves glittered with moonstone, and courts that caught the night glow and held it like captured stars. This was no mere wilderness. It was a kingdom older than any crown of men, ruled not by scepter, but by instinct, by strength, by the deep and unchanging laws of the moon. And at its center reigned Ronan, the Alpha King. He was magnificent even among alphas, a towering figure in man form, broad of shoulder and carved from years of running beneath endless skies, his hair black as the deepest shadow, falling in wild waves to his shoulders, His eyes burned with the gold of harvest moons, fierce and knowing, capable of stilling the heart of any creature with a single glance. When he shifted to wolf, his coat was midnight itself, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, save for the faint silver tipping each strand like frost on winter branches. Ronan was the first, the original bearer of the purest wild magic. Legend among the packs told that he had been born the very night the moon first spilled its silver fire upon the earth, the moment wild magic took form. No alpha before him had ever existed, for he was the beginning. All other alphas traced their lines back to him, their power a river flowing from his ancient source. His roar could silence storms. His will could bend the paths of rivers in flood. Packs from the farthest mountains and deepest valleys came to pay homage, bringing offerings of rare prey or shining stones unearthed from the earth's hidden heart. His palace was no cold hall of stone, but a vast network of caves deep beneath an ancient oak older than time. Within, the walls shimmered with veins of gold and moonstone, natural treasures the wild magic had shaped over centuries. These were his crown jewels, not hoarded in greed, but revered as the earth's own gifts. Soft moss carpeted the floors, bioluminescent fungi cast gentle light like everlasting torches. Here he held counsel with the alphas of distant packs, their eyes glowing in the half-dark as they spoke of borders, of hunts, of the turning seasons. Yet for all his power and dominion, Ronan knew a quiet emptiness. He had taken mates in his long centuries, strong she-wolves of pure alpha blood, fierce and loyal. Their unions had strengthened packs, produced heirs of great strength, but the true mate bond, that soul-deep pull spoken of in the oldest songs, had never stirred in him. The wild magic within him remained untamed, unshared in its deepest essence. He told himself this was as it should be. An alpha king needed no equal, only obedience. But on lonely nights when the moon hung full and heavy, he would stand atop the highest ridge of his realm and gaze southward toward the distant lights of human lands. Something unnamed tugged at him then, a whisper beneath the wind, a longing he could not shape into words. He had watched humans from afar over the ages, fragile, short-lived, loud with their fires and axes. They feared the forest, feared the wolves, and rightly so. Yet sometimes, in rare moments, he had seen glimpses of something else. A farmer laying a gentle hand on wounded soil, a child singing to a frightened fawn. Fleeting echoes of the earth's own voice. Ronan had always turned away. The wild magic was too fierce for such fragile hearts. No alpha in memory had ever felt the mate bond reach beyond Wolfkind. It was unthinkable, impossible, until the wind changed. It was a late summer evening, the air thick with the scent of pine and ripening berries, when Ronan first caught it, a fragrance unlike any he had known, delicate yet strong, like wild honeysuckle after rain, laced with something deeper. The green scent of living earth, of kindness made tangible. It drifted to him on a southern breeze, from the very border where forest met human fields. His head lifted, his golden eyes narrowed, every instinct sharpened. The scent called to him, not as prey, not as threat, but as something sacred. The wild magic within him surged, hot and bright, coiling around his heart like silver vines. For the first time in his endless life, the mate bond stirred. Ronan did not yet understand what it meant. He only knew he must follow. That night, beneath a moon just beginning to swell toward fullness, the Alpha King ran southward, silent as shadow, swift as wind, toward the source of the scent that promised to gentle even his untamed soul. He did not know that on the other side of the border, a princess with auburn hair and a heart full of kindness was already walking toward him, drawn by the same invisible thread. Two ancient magics, one wild and fierce, one gentle and deep, were reaching across the divide at last. And when they met, the world would never be the same. Chapter 3: The First Meeting at the Moonlit Stream. The forest border was a place of twilight and mystery, where the golden fields of Etheria gave way to towering sentinel trees draped in ivy and shadow. Here the air grew cooler, richer, scented with moss and pine, and the faint, sweet decay of fallen leaves. Birds sang their evening songs, and somewhere deeper in, a nightingale practiced its liquid melody. Elara had ridden farther than ever before, her mare picking a careful path along a deer trail that wound between ancient oaks. She wore no crown today, only a simple gown of forest green linen, her auburn hair unbound and catching stray beams of fading sunlight. A small basket hung from her saddle, filled with herbs she hoped to gather, though in truth she had come for the solace only the wild could offer. At last she reached a place she had never seen, a small, secluded glade where a crystal stream tumbled over smooth stones, its water catching the last rays of sun like scattered diamonds. On the far bank, a grove of young oaks stood withered, their leaves curled and brown, though summer was at its height. A blight had taken them, some poison in the soil, perhaps, or a deeper wound only the earth could feel. Elara's heart ached at the sight. She dismounted, tied her mare to a low branch, and crossed the stream on stepping stones, worn smooth by centuries of gentle current. Kneeling among the suffering trees, she laid her palms against the rough bark of the nearest oak. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, letting her kindness flow outward like warm sunlight. "Be at peace," she whispered. "Whatever hurts you, let it pass. Drink deeply again. Remember spring." She did not command. She never had. She simply offered her empathy, her love for growing things, the quiet harmony that lived in her blood. Warmth spread from her hands into the trunk, and for a moment the air shimmered faintly, as though the glade itself sighed in relief. Minutes stretched into an hour. One by one she touched each tree, singing softly, an old lullaby her mother had sung to her as a child. Tiny green buds appeared where none had been moments before, leaves uncurled, tentative but true. When she finally rose, weary yet filled with quiet joy, the grove was already healing. Twilight had deepened into true evening. The first stars pricked the sky, and the moon, nearly full, silver and luminous, rose above the treetops, bathing the glade in cool light. Elara turned toward the stream to wash the soil from her hands, and froze. On the opposite bank stood a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in shadow and moonlight. His dark hair fell wild about his face and his eyes. His eyes caught the moon's glow and burned with molten gold. He was no courtier, no hunter from her father's lands. There was something primal about him, something that made the air itself feel charged, as though a storm waited just beyond the horizon. Yet she felt no fear. The mare lifted her head and nickered softly, not in alarm, but in greeting. Birds that had fallen silent began to sing again. Even the newly healed oaks seemed to rustle in welcome. The stranger did not move at first. He simply watched her, head slightly tilted, as though trying to understand a dream made real. Then slowly, he stepped forward onto the same stepping stones she had used. Each footfall was silent, deliberate. When he reached her side of the stream, he stopped an arm's length away. Up close, he was even more imposing, tall enough that she had to tilt her head back, strong enough that she sensed he could break trees with his bare hands. Yet his expression held only wonder. "You..." His voice was low, rough, as though words were not his usual tongue. "You healed them." Elara found her voice. "They were hurting. I only helped." He glanced at the oaks, then back to her, something fierce and tender flickering in his golden eyes. No one helps the wild. They fear it, take from it. "Not all," she said softly. "And not always." A long moment passed, filled only with the murmur of the stream and the distant call of an owl. He inhaled deeply, as though drawing in her scent. "I am Ronan." "Elara," she answered, her heart beating strangely fast, not from danger, but from recognition, as though some part of her had known he would be here. Ronan's gaze softened. "Elara," he repeated, tasting the name like something precious. "The kindness in you, it sings to the wild. I have never felt anything like it." She should have stepped back, should have asked who he was, what he wanted. Instead, she found herself smiling, a small, wondering curve of her lips. "And the wild in you, it calls to something in me. I have never felt so awake." The moon climbed higher, silvering them both. Neither moved to leave. In that quiet glade, beside the healing stream, two ancient magics met for the first time, wildfire and gentle earth, fierce strength and boundless kindness. The air between them shimmered faintly, like heat above summer fields, as though the world itself held its breath. Ronan reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. When she did not, he brushed a stray curl from her cheek with fingertips that trembled, just slightly. The moment his skin touched hers, light sparked softly where they connected. Silver from him, green gold from her. It faded quickly, but both felt it, a promise, a beginning. Neither spoke of it, not yet. Instead, Ronan sat upon a smooth boulder by the stream, gesturing for her to join him. And Elara, princess of golden halls, sat beside the Alpha King of the Wild, beneath the rising moon. They spoke little that first night. Words seemed too small for what passed between them. But the silence was warm, full of discovery. And when at last Elara rose to leave, knowing her absence from the palace would soon be noticed, Ronan stood with her. "Come again," he said, voice rough with something deeper than command. "Tomorrow, if you wish." She met his golden gaze, her own eyes bright with moonlight and certainty. "I will," she whispered. As she rode away through the starlit trees, the pull in her heart grew stronger, not away from him, but toward him. Behind her, Ronan stood long in the glade, watching until she vanished. The wild magic in his blood roared like never before, no longer lonely. The mate bond had awakened, and nothing, not kingdoms, not ancient laws, not the divide between man and beast, would keep them apart. Chapter 4. Whispers of Forbidden Love. Night after night, Elara returned to the moonlit stream. At first, she told herself it was for the grove, to watch the young oaks grow stronger, to tend any lingering hurt in the soil. But she knew the truth. She came for him, for Ronan. He was always there, waiting in the shadows or seated upon the same boulder, his golden eyes catching the starlight like embers in the dark. No matter how quietly she approached, he sensed her long before she saw him. The wild magic in him attuned to her presence as surely as the tide to the moon. Their meetings began in silence, rich and comfortable. They would sit side by side, listening to the stream's endless song, watching fireflies dance above the water like living sparks. Sometimes hours passed with barely a word, yet Elara felt more understood in that quiet than in all the crowded banquets of her father's court. When they did speak, it was in whispers, as though the forest itself leaned in to listen. Ronan told her of his world, the vast packs that roamed beneath his protection, the hidden caves veined with gold and moonstone that glowed like captured moonlight, the ancient songs wolves sang to the stars on the longest nights. His voice, deep and rough-hewn, softened when he spoke of the wild's beauty, the thrill of running beneath a full moon, the deep peace of snow falling silent on pine needles. Elara listened, entranced. She had never heard anyone speak of nature as a living companion, not a resource to be tamed. In turn, she shared her own stories of the golden halls of Etheria, where tapestries depicted ancient heroes and tables groaned beneath jeweled goblets, of her father's court, full of ceremony and politics that left her weary, and most of all, of her love for growing things. The way a seed unfurled into blossom always felt like a small miracle. How kindness shown to the earth returned tenfold in beauty and bounty. One evening, as twilight bled into indigo, she coaxed a night-blooming flower to open early with a gentle touch. Its petals unfurled like white silk, releasing a fragrance sweet as honeyed wine. "For you," she said shyly, offering it to Ronan. He took it with reverence, cradling the bloom in his large hand, as though it were spun glass. "No one has ever given me a flower," he murmured. "In the wild, we take what we need. But this is freely given." His golden eyes met hers, fierce emotion flickering there. "Like your heart." Elara's breath caught. Heat rose in her cheeks, but she did not look away. Another night, beneath a sky strewn with stars, Ronan shifted for her, not to frighten, but to share his truest self. The change was fluid, beautiful. Silver light rippled over him like water, and where the man had stood rose a great black wolf, midnight fur tipped with frost, eyes still that burning gold. He lowered his massive head, waiting. Elara's heart pounded, not with fear, but with wonder. She stepped forward, sinking her fingers into the thick ruff at his neck. His fur was warm, soft as velvet over steel. He rumbled low in his chest, a sound of contentment, and leaned gently into her touch. "You are magnificent," she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "Both ways, always." When he shifted back, the man who stood before her trembled, not from exertion, but from the depth of what her acceptance meant. No one outside Wolfkind had ever touched him in wolf form without terror. That was the night he first kissed her. They had been sitting closer than usual, shoulders brushing, the air between them humming with unspoken longing. Ronan turned to her, cupping her face with hands that could crush stone, yet touched her as delicately as falling petals. "Elara," he breathed, her name a prayer on his lips. "You gentle my wildness. You make the moon sing louder in my blood." She rose on her knees to meet him, fingers threading through his dark hair. "And you awaken mine," she answered softly. "I have never felt so alive." Their lips met, slow, reverent at first, then deepening with the hunger of two souls, long starved for their match. Moonlight bathed them, the stream seemed to hush. When they drew apart, foreheads resting together, faint sparks danced where their skin touched. Silver from his wild magic, green gold from her nature harmony. The lights swirled together briefly, becoming something new. A soft, luminous pearl glow that faded into the night. They pulled back in wonder, staring at their hands. "What was that?" Elara whispered. Ronan's voice shook with awe. "Our magics, recognizing each other. I have never felt anything like it." From that night on, their love grew bolder, yet still secret. They met deeper in the forest now, far from any human path. Ronan showed her hidden glades where moonflowers bloomed only under his call, waterfalls that fell into pools clear as crystal. Elara brought small gifts from her world, a silken ribbon for his hair, a tiny golden locket engraved with an oak leaf. And always, always, they spoke of the pull between them. "It is the mate bond," Ronan told her one night, as they lay on a bed of moss beneath starlight, her head pillowed on his chest. "The wild magic's deepest gift. It chooses only once for all time. I have lived centuries and never felt it. Until you." Elara traced idle patterns on his skin, feeling the steady thunder of his heart. "And my harmony? It has always reached toward something wilder, toward you." Yet even in their joy, shadows lingered. Elara knew her absences were noticed. Servants whispered, her mother's eyes grew worried. Soon questions would come. Perhaps searches. Ronan, too, felt the weight. His alphas sensed the change in him, his distracted patrols, his longer absences. Wolves spoke in low growls of the human scent that clung to their king. But love, once awakened, would not be denied. One full moon night, as silver light drenched the forest and the mate bond burned brightest, Ronan drew Elara into his arms beneath a canopy of ancient oaks. "I would claim you fully," he said, voice rough with longing and restraint, "before the moon and the wild, as my mate forever. Elara looked up at him, eyes shining with tears and certainty. And I would give myself to you, she answered. Heart, soul, and all that I am, human and harmony together. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Their lips met again, fierce and tender, and the lights of their mingled magics rose around them like auroras, silver and green gold, weaving into luminous strands. In that sacred moment, beneath the watching moon, the forbidden love became unbreakable. And deep within Elara, in the quiet space where kindness met wildness, something new began to stir, a spark of the first Fae magic, waiting for its time to bloom. Chapter 5. The mate bond and sacred union. The pull between them had become a living thing, fierce and tender, wild and gentle, binding their hearts with threads stronger than any chain forged in Etheria's royal smithies. Ronan and Elara no longer met only at the stream. He led her deeper into his realm, to places no human foot had ever touched, hidden glades where the grass glowed faintly under moonlight, caves whose walls sparkled with veins of gold and moonstone that pulsed like slow heartbeats. There, in those sacred spaces, they built a world of their own, a secret cottage grown from living wood and woven vines, its roof a canopy of blooming jasmine, its hearth a circle of smooth river stones warmed by Ronan's own wild magic. Here they could love without restraint, without the weight of watching eyes. One night, as autumn's first chill kissed the air and leaves turned to flame and gold, Ronan drew Elara into the heart of an ancient clearing, ringed by towering oaks. The moon hung full and low, so bright it cast shadows sharp as day. Fireflies drifted like living stars, and the forest itself seemed hushed in reverence. Ronan took her hands in his golden eyes grave and shining. "There is something I must tell you," he said, voice low and resonant. "Something no alpha has ever spoken to a human before." Elara's heart quickened, but she squeezed his fingers in encouragement. "Tell me." "The mate bond," he began, "is the wild magic's deepest truth. It is not chosen by will or whim. The moon itself weaves it, binding two souls as one for all time. Once claimed, it cannot be broken, not by distance, not by death, not by any power on earth. Among wolves it is rare and sacred. Among alphas, it is the mark of destiny." He paused, searching her face. "I have lived centuries, Elara. I have known strength, loyalty, passion, but never this, never the bond, until you." Tears gathered in her eyes, not of sorrow but of wonder. "And I have known kindness returned, beauty shared, but never this completeness, as though half my soul was waiting in the wild all along." Ronan dropped to one knee before her, not in subservience, but in offering. Only the Alpha King carries wild magic pure enough to bridge our kinds. No other could form this bond with a human. It has never happened before. You and I, we are the first." He placed her hand over his heart, where the wild magic thrummed like distant thunder. "I feel your harmony calling to it, Elara. Your kindness gentles my fierceness. Your love for the earth awakens something new in the wild itself. If we join fully, under the moon's witness, our magics will merge, forever. Elara's breath trembled. She knew the peril. Her father's kingdom would never understand. Her people might call it treason, or worse, sorcery. Yet the thought of life without him felt like winter without hope of spring. She sank to her knees before him, cupping his face in her hands. "Then let them merge," she whispered. "I choose you, Ronan, all of you, wolf and man, wild and king. My heart has already claimed you." The air shimmered. Ronan rose, drawing her up with him, and led her to the center of the clearing, where a natural altar of stone stood, veined with silver and gold, Earth's own crown. He shifted briefly to wolf, circling her once in solemn ritual, then back to man. Elara, in turn, laid her palms to the stone and sang the old earth song her mother had taught her, a lullaby of growth and renewal. Then they faced each other. Ronan spoke the ancient words of claiming, his voice rolling like thunder over hills. "Beneath this moon, before the wild eternal, I claim you, Elara of the gentle heart, as my mate. My strength is yours, my life is yours, my magic answers only to you." Elara answered, her voice clear and steady, weaving her own vow. "Beneath this moon, before the living earth, I claim you, Ronan of the wild heart, as my mate. My kindness is yours, my harmony is yours, my love binds us beyond all endings." They joined hands. The moment their palms met, the magics ignited. Silver fire poured from Ronan, wild, primal, moon-born power that roared through the clearing like a storm wind. From Elara rose green-gold light, soft, nurturing, the deep harmony of root and leaf and blooming life. The two streams met between them, clashing at first in brilliant sparks, then twining, merging, becoming something utterly new. A luminous pearl-white glow shot through with silver and gold, warm as sunrise, strong as ancient oaks. The forest responded. Flowers burst into bloom around them, though autumn reigned. Trees bowed their branches in benediction. Fireflies swirled in joyful spirals. Even the moon seemed to brighten, bathing them in approval. Ronan pulled Elara close and kissed her, deeply, fiercely, tenderly. The new magic flared around them like an aurora, wrapping them in light that sank slowly into their skin, sealing the bond. When they drew apart, both were breathless, eyes shining with tears and joy. "It is done," Ronan whispered against her forehead. "You are mine, and I am yours. The wild and the gentle are one." Elara laughed through her tears, a sound like bells in spring. "And something new has begun," she said, pressing his hand to her heart. "I feel it already. Our magics, they are no longer separate." In the quiet that followed, as they lay entwined on a bed of soft moss beneath the watching moon, neither spoke of the miracle already taking root within her, a spark of life born of perfect union, carrying the first true fusion of wild magic and nature's harmony. A child who would change everything. The first Fae, Chapter 6. The Miracle of Cadence. Winter softened into spring, and spring ripened into the fullest bloom of summer, yet the secret cottage deep in the forest remained a haven of eternal warmth. Ronan and Elara's love deepened with each passing moon, the merged magic within them growing brighter, more harmonious, a constant, gentle glow that lit their nights and made flowers bloom in their footsteps. It was on a morning when the air carried the sweet promise of rain that Elara first felt the change. She woke in Ronan's arms, nestled against his chest in their bed of woven vines and soft furs. A strange flutter stirred within her, not illness, not hunger, but something alive and wondrous. She placed a hand low on her belly, eyes widening. Ronan stirred instantly, his golden gaze sharpening with alpha instinct. "What is it, my heart?" Elara turned to him, tears already gathering, tears of joy so profound they trembled on her lashes. I feel life, new life, ours." For a moment, the mighty Alpha King was utterly still, centuries of strength and solitude rendered speechless by fragile hope. Then he sat up slowly, cradling her face in his hands as though she were the most precious treasure in all the wild. "A child?" His voice broke, rough with awe. "From us?" She nodded, laughing through her tears. "From our bond, from the magics we joined." Ronan pressed his forehead to hers, a low rumble rising in his chest. Not a growl, but the deepest purr of contentment a wolf could offer. He laid a large hand gently over hers on her belly, and the merged magic flared softly. Pearl-white light edged in silver and green gold, warm as summer sun. "I feel it too," he whispered. "So small, yet so strong already." In the months that followed, the pregnancy became a miracle, witnessed only by the forest itself. Elara bloomed with it, her skin glowing with inner light, her auburn hair thicker and shinier, her kindness radiating even more powerfully. Animals came to her unbidden. Deer nuzzled her hands. Birds sang lullabies from the branches above the cottage. Even the fiercest predators of Ronan's packs approached with lowered heads and gentle whines. Ronan, for his part, became fiercely protective yet endlessly tender. He hunted the choicest game, brought her rare herbs that eased any discomfort, and spent long hours with his palm against her rounding belly, speaking to their child in the low, rumbling tones of wolf song. The wild magic in him responded to the life within her, making the forest around their home more vibrant than ever. Flowers opening out of season, ancient trees bearing fruit twice over. But wonder grew alongside joy. As Elara's belly swelled, faint signs appeared that this was no ordinary child. When the babe kicked, it was with a strength that made Elara gasp and laugh, wild and vital. When she rested her hands there, green gold light would pulse gently, and nearby plants would unfurl new leaves. Once, during a full moon, how silver sparks danced across her skin, and the child within seemed to leap toward Ronan's touch. "Our magics," Elara murmured one evening as they sat by their hearth, fireflies drifting through open windows. "They are already blending in the child, something entirely new." Ronan nodded, eyes shining with pride and a trace of reverence. The first of its kind, born of the Alpha King's wild magic and a princess's nature harmony, the moon and the earth together. They chose a name in whispers beneath starlight. Cadence, for the perfect rhythm their love had created, for the gentle cadence of heartbeat and breath that now echoed 3 instead of 2. The birth came on a night of rare wonder, a blue moon, the second full moon in a single cycle, hanging low and luminous, like a blessing from the heavens themselves. Elara's labors began at twilight in their cottage, the forest gathering close as witness. Ancient oaks leaned their branches protectively. A circle of wolves, Ronan's most trusted alphas, sat silent guard at the edges of the clearing, heads bowed in respect. Ronan stayed at her side through every moment, holding her hands, lending his strength, whispering encouragement in both man voice and soft wolf rumbles. When pain crested, he pressed his forehead to hers and let wild magic flow, silver light easing her body, bolstering her spirit. And when the moment came, under the blue moon's fullest glow, their daughter entered the world with a cry clear and pure as a nightingale's first song, strong yet melodic, wild yet tender. Ronan caught her gently, wrapping her in softest furs, tears streaking his face for the first time in centuries. Elara reached out, exhausted yet radiant, and together they gazed at their miracle. Cadence. She was perfect, tiny fists waving, auburn wisps already curling at her temples like her mother's, eyes a luminous blend of forest green and moonlit gold. But even in her first moments, differences shone. Her ears, delicately shaped, yet elegantly longer and pointed, a gentle echo of wolf heritage refined by harmony. When she opened her eyes fully, a faint pearl-white glow shimmered there, the new magic already awake. The forest celebrated. Flowers burst open in waves of color, fireflies swirled in joyful spirals. The guarding wolves lifted their heads and sang, a deep, harmonious howl that carried for miles, announcing the birth to every pack under Ronan's rule. Elara cradled Cadence to her breast, tears falling softly. "She is beautiful," she whispered. "Our bridge, our beginning." Ronan knelt beside them, pressing kisses to both their foreheads. "She is everything," he answered, voice thick. "The first true child of merged magics, wild and gentle, fierce and kind." As Cadence nursed quietly, the blue moon bathed the cottage in silver blue light, and the new magic pulsed gently around all three, a luminous aura weaving them together. In that sacred hour, the Fae took their first breath. And though Ronan and Elara could not yet see the full scope of what they had created, they felt it in their bones. Their daughter was destined for greatness, a queen in her own right, born of royal human blood and the Alpha King's ancient line. The world had changed forever, and the forest whispered her name on the wind. Cadence, Cadence. The First Fae, Chapter 7, Childhood in Two Worlds. Cadence grew like a young sapling reaching for sunlight, swiftly, gracefully, and with a beauty that seemed to draw the very essence of the world toward her. In the hidden cottage deep within Ronan's realm, the family lived in a harmony that felt eternal. Days were filled with laughter echoing through sun-dappled glades, nights with stories told by the hearth under starlight, pouring through vine-woven windows. Ronan and Elara watched their daughter with endless wonder, marveling at how perfectly she embodied the union of their magics. From her earliest months, Cadence's powers stirred in small, enchanting ways. As an infant, when she cried, nearby flowers would bloom to comfort her, petals unfurling in soft bursts of color, as though the earth itself sought to soothe her tears. When she laughed, a sound like silver bells tinkling in a gentle breeze. Fireflies would gather, swirling around her cradle in joyful dances that lit the cottage brighter than any lantern. Elara noticed first how animals responded to her daughter. Deer that normally shied from any presence would approach the cottage boldly, nuzzling Cadence's tiny hands through the open window. Birds perched on the sill to sing directly to her, their songs sweeter and more complex when she cooed back. Once, a fierce mother bear wandered close with her cubs, creatures even Ronan's wolves treated with caution, only to lay down peacefully while Cadence gurgled and reached out. The bear allowed the child to touch her muzzle, rumbling softly in contentment. "It is your kindness in her," Ronan murmured to Elara one evening, watching Cadence sleep surrounded by a circle of sleeping fawns. "She heals with her presence alone, just as you do." But Ronan's wild magic lived in her too. When Cadence began to crawl, she moved with uncanny speed and silence, vanishing into shadows only to reappear, giggling on the far side of the room. Her strength was astonishing. By her first year, she could pull herself up on Ronan's massive wolf form without tiring his neck, clinging to his fur as he padded gently through the forest. Her senses were keen beyond any human child. She would turn her head toward distant sounds long before her parents heard them, her delicately pointed ears twitching like a wolf pup's. One full moon night, when Cadence was scarcely 2, she did something that stole both parents' breath. Ronan had shifted to wolf to let her play in his fur, as she loved to do. She toddled toward him, auburn curls bouncing, and reached out with chubby hands. A faint pearl-white glow shimmered from her palms, the new, fused magic awakening. Where she touched his midnight coat, soft illusions bloomed, tiny sparks of light that became illusory butterflies, fluttering around them both before fading. Ronan shifted back in wonder, scooping her up. "Did you see that?" Elara breathed, eyes wide. Ronan nodded, voice thick. Illusions born of wild shadow and gentle light, she weaves them as easily as breathing. As Cadence grew into a small child, 3, then 4, then 5, her powers blossomed richer and more deliberate. She spoke to animals in a language of soft sounds and empathy, understanding their needs as clearly as words. A wounded hawk once crashed near the cottage. Cadence knelt beside it, laying her small hands on its broken wing. Green-gold light flowed from her, Elara's harmony, and the bone knit before their eyes. The hawk launched skyward moments later, circling once in gratitude, before flying free. Plants answered her whims. In the garden Elara tended, Cadence would dance barefoot among the rows, and flowers would turn to follow her like faces to the sun. She coaxed golden roses to bloom in winter, their petals veined with faint silver like Ronan's wild magic under moon. Once, in play, she touched a barren patch of soil and giggled, and a carpet of luminous moonflowers sprang up overnight. Her illusions grew more vivid. She could conjure shimmering images, a pack of ghostly wolves running alongside Ronan during his hunts, or an illusory crown of gold and jewels hovering above Elara's head, making her mother laugh like a girl again. These were not mere tricks, they carried feeling. When Cadence wove an illusion of a summer meadow in midwinter, warmth truly radiated from it, easing the chill. Yet all her gifts were tempered by profound kindness. Cadence never used her powers to harm or dominate. If a creature was frightened, she soothed it with gentle words and touch until it trusted her. If Ronan returned from a hunt fierce with the thrill of the chase, she would climb into his lap and lay her head against his chest, and his wildness would quiet instantly, silver magic calming under her pearl-white glow. The family lived between two worlds carefully. Elara, still princess of Etheria, could not abandon her people entirely. On rare, carefully planned visits, she brought Cadence secretly to the palace gardens under cloaks of illusion woven by the child herself. There, hidden from courtiers, Cadence marveled at the golden treasures, jeweled crowns, goblets encrusted with rubies, tapestries threaded with real gold. She did not covet them greedily. She saw them as the earth's beauty shaped by loving hands, much like her illusions. "Pretty," she would whisper, touching a golden necklace with reverent fingers. Then, with a child's delight, she would weave an illusion of even grander jewels floating around her mother, making Elara feel like the queen she might have been. Ronan watched these visits from the shadows in a wolf form, protective but trusting. He taught Cadence the wild ways, running through forest paths, listening to the earth's deep rhythms, feeling the moon's pull in her blood. She learned to sense danger long before it came, to move silent as falling snow. By her 7th year, Cadence was a child of extraordinary grace, tall for her age, with auburn curls that caught sunlight like fire, eyes that shifted between forest green and moonlit gold depending on her mood, and those elegantly pointed ears that marked her as something new. She spoke with a wisdom beyond her years, yet her laughter remained pure joy. One evening, as the three sat beneath a canopy of stars, Cadence nestled between her parents, she looked up at the moon and asked, "Why do I feel the flowers singing? Why do the wolves call me little sister?" Elara and Ronan exchanged a long glance. "Because you are both worlds, my love," Elara answered softly, stroking her daughter's hair. "My kindness and love for nature, your father's wild strength and moon magic, all woven together in you." Ronan added, voice deep with pride, "You are the first, Cadence, the beginning of something beautiful. One day, others like you will come, and you will guide them as the moon guides the night." Cadence smiled, pearl-white light shimmering faintly around her like an aura. "I will love them," she said simply, "like you love me." In her young heart, the future queen of the Fae was already awakening, compassionate, powerful, and bound to both earth and wild in perfect balance. And though she did not yet know it, the forest was already whispering to distant ears. Others were coming. Children born of rare new bonds, drawn by the light of the first Fae. Chapter 9. Trials of the New People. As the Fae communities flourished in hidden glades and living halls of vine and crystal, shadows began to gather at the edges of their golden world. Word of the changed ones, children with pointed ears and strange magics, had begun to seep into the human kingdoms. Travelers spoke in hushed tones of villages where infants vanished into the forest, lured by glowing lights or animal calls. Healers who had once tended border folk now disappeared, drawn by bonds no human law or recognized. King Aldrich's court in Etheria whispered of sorcery, of wolves stealing daughters, of a wild king who bewitched the innocent. Fear bred suspicion. Suspicion bred action. Scouts and hunters from Etheria ventured deeper into the forest than ever before, armed with iron blades and torches. Some sought lost kin, others came to root out what they called abomination. In distant packs, purest wolves, those who clung to ancient ways, growled of dilution. They claimed the wild magic was weakening, that allowing human blood into their lines would doom the packs to frailty. Ronan felt the rumblings first. His alphas brought reports during full moon councils, human parties skirting borders, iron traps set near known paths, angry howls from traditionalist packs refusing to acknowledge hybrid young. They call our children mongrels, one loyal alpha reported, fur bristling even in man form. They say the moon will turn her face from us. Ronan's golden eyes burned. The moon blessed the first bond herself. She will not abandon what she began. But he knew force alone would not suffice. The Fae were still few, their settlements fragile. Open war against human kingdoms or dissenting wolves would drown their newborn people in blood. Cadence knew it too. On a night when storm clouds veiled the moon, she called the Fae together in the grandest hall, yet grown. A vast chamber within an ancient tree whose trunk had widened into cathedral-like space, its walls veined with natural golden moonstone that glowed softly even in darkness. Hundreds gathered, young and old, wolf parent and human parent, all with pointed ears catching the faint light. Cadence stood at the center on a dais of living roots, clad in a gown of silver-green silk, woven with golden threads. Her aura shone steady pearl white, calming the anxious murmurs. "My kin," she began, voice carrying like music through the hall. "We face trials. The human world fears what it does not understand. Some of our wolfkin cling to old separations, but we are not abomination. We are harmony made flesh, the wild's strength, and the earth's kindness united." A young Fae, barely 10, asked in a trembling voice, "Will they come for us, with fire and iron?" Cadence knelt to the child's level, touching her cheek gently. Green gold light flowed, easing fear. "They may try, but we will not meet hate with hate." She rose, turning to her parents who stood beside her. Ronan fierce and protective, Elara radiant with quiet resolve. "My father will protect us with the wild's strength. My mother will guide us with diplomacy born of her royal heart. And together, we will show both worlds that love, not fear, is the greatest magic." The first true test came sooner than expected. A band of Etherian hunters, sent by fearful lords, not King Aldrich himself, stumbled upon a small Fae outpost near the border. They saw pointed-eared children weaving illusions of golden butterflies, saw homes grown from living trees adorned with jeweled ornaments. Panic turned to violence. Torches raised, blades drawn, cries of monsters echoing through the trees. Cadence felt the disturbance like a wound in her own heart. She arrived with Ronan and a circle of trusted Fae before blood could be spilled. Ronan in wolf form at her side, massive and midnight black, a low growl rumbling warning. But Cadence stepped forward alone, hands open, aura flaring bright and soothing. "Lower your weapons," she called, voice gentle yet carrying unbreakable authority. "We mean no harm." The hunters hesitated. Her kindness radiated like warmth from a hearth, staying raised arms. She wove subtle illusions, visions of their own children playing safely, memories of gentle forests before fear poisoned them. One hunter, the leader, shook his head. "You bewitched our people, stole them." "No," Cadence answered softly. "Love called them, as it calls all who listen. See for yourselves." She touched the ground. Green-gold light spread, healing scorched earth from their torches, coaxing flowers to bloom in moments. Nearby, a wounded scout, one of their own party nicked by a branch, was healed by a young Fae's touch. The hunters wavered. In the end, they left unarmed, bearing messages of peace instead of war. Cadence's compassion had turned blades aside, yet not all trials yielded so easily. In the northern packs, a coalition of purest alphas gathered, refusing to acknowledge hybrid young. They drove out bonded pairs, left Fae children abandoned at borders. Ronan rode north in fury, but Cadence went with him, insisting strength must be tempered. At the Great Council Ridge, where dissenting alphas gathered under stormy skies, Ronan confronted them in man form, power rolling off him like thunder. "You defy the moon's will?" he roared. "The bond began with me, the first and purest. To reject it is to reject me." Growls answered. Challenges rose. But Cadence stepped into the circle, unafraid. Her presence alone quieted the storm winds. She spoke not of punishment, but of understanding. "I am the first child of such a bond," she said, pearl white light glowing bright. "Feel my magic. Is it weak? Is it lesser?" She wove illusions of the moon's approval, silver light bathing the ridge, memories of ancient songs celebrating unity. She touched the ground, and golden flowers bloomed even on bare stone. One by one, the purists lowered their heads. Not conquered by force, but moved by the undeniable beauty of what the fusion had created. When Ronan and Cadence returned, the rescued children came with them, welcomed into the growing Fae realms. Through these trials, the Fae halls grew stronger. Protective illusions cloaked settlements completely, golden artifacts enchanted for defense, yet never aggression, healing groves that mended any wound. Cadence's wisdom shone clearest in how she honored both heritages. She wore circlets blending Ronan's moon-forged silver with Elara's royal gold. She taught Fae youth to run with wolf packs under full moons and to tend gardens with human tenderness. Riches, gold, jewels, crafted beauty adorned their halls not as greed, but as celebration. Earth's gifts shaped by loving hands, symbols of harmony achieved. Elara, visiting from Etheria more openly now, used her royal influence to quiet the loudest human fears, speaking of her own lost years as time spent in peace, hinting at alliances to come. Ronan stood guardian, his wild magic the shield behind which the Fae flourished. And Cadence, beloved, wise, radiant, held them all together with kindness stronger than any blade. The trials had tested them, but they had not broken. Instead, they had forged the Fae into a people ready for their golden age, and for the coronation that would proclaim their queen to the world. Chapter 9: Trials of the New People. As the Fae communities flourished in hidden glades and living halls of vine and crystal, shadows began to gather at the edges of their golden world. Word of the changed ones, children with pointed ears and strange magics, had begun to seep into the human kingdoms. Travelers spoke in hushed tones of villages where infants vanished into the forest, lured by glowing lights or animal calls. Healers who had once tended border folk now disappeared, drawn by bonds no human law recognized. King Aldrich's court in Etheria whispered of sorcery, of wolves stealing daughters, of a wild king who bewitched the innocent. Fear bred suspicion. Suspicion bred action. Scouts and hunters from Etheria ventured deeper into the forest than ever before, armed with iron blades and torches. Some sought lost kin, others came to root out what they called abomination. In distant packs, purest wolves, those who clung to ancient ways, growled of dilution. They claimed the wild magic was weakening, that allowing human blood into their lines would doom the packs to frailty. Ronan felt the rumblings first. His alphas brought reports during full moon councils, human parties skirting borders, iron traps set near known paths, angry howls from traditionalist packs, refusing to acknowledge hybrid young. They call our children mongrels, one loyal alpha reported, fur bristling even in man form. They say the moon will turn her face from us. Ronan's golden eyes burned. The moon blessed the first bond herself. She will not abandon what she began. But he knew force alone would not suffice. The Fae were still few, their settlements fragile. Open war against human kingdoms or dissenting wolves would drown their newborn people in blood. Cadence knew it, too. On a night when storm clouds veiled the moon, she called the Fae together in the grandest hall yet grown. A vast chamber within an ancient tree whose trunk had widened into cathedral-like space, its walls veined with natural gold, and moonstone that glowed softly even in darkness. Hundreds gathered, young and old, wolf parent and human parent, all with pointed ears catching the faint light. Cadence stood at the center on a dais of living roots, clad in a gown of silver-green silk woven with golden threads. Her aura shone steady pearl white, calming the anxious murmurs. "My kin," she began, voice carrying like music through the hall, "we face trials. The human world fears what it does not understand. Some of our wolfkin cling to old separations, but we are not abomination. We are harmony made flesh. The wild's strength and the earth's kindness united." A young Fae, barely 10, asked in a trembling voice, "Will they come for us, with fire and iron?" Cadence knelt to the child's level, touching her cheek gently. Green gold light flowed, easing fear. "They may try, but we will not meet hate with hate." She rose, turning to her parents who stood beside her. Ronan fierce and protective, Elara radiant with quiet resolve. "My father will protect us with the wild's strength. My mother will guide us with diplomacy born of her royal heart. And together, we will show both worlds that love, not fear, is the greatest magic. The first true test came sooner than expected. A band of Etherian hunters, sent by fearful lords, not King Aldrich himself, stumbled upon a small Fae outpost near the border. They saw pointed-eared children weaving illusions of golden butterflies, saw homes grown from living trees adorned with jeweled ornaments. Panic turned to violence, torches raised, blades drawn, cries of monsters echoing through the trees. Cadence felt the disturbance like a wound in her own heart. She arrived with Ronan and a circle of trusted Fae before blood could be spilled. Ronan in wolf form at her side, massive and midnight black, a low growl rumbling warning. But Cadence stepped forward alone, hands open, aura flaring bright and soothing. "Lower your weapons," she called, voice gentle yet carrying unbreakable authority. "We mean no harm." The hunters hesitated. Her kindness radiated like warmth from a hearth, staying raised arms. She wove subtle illusions, visions of their own children playing safely, memories of gentle forests before fear poisoned them. One hunter, the leader, shook his head. "You bewitched our people, stole them." "No," Cadence answered softly. "Love called them, as it calls all who listen. See for yourselves." She touched the ground. Green-gold light spread, healing scorched earth from their torches, coaxing flowers to bloom in moments. Nearby, a wounded scout, one of their own party nicked by a branch, was healed by a young Fae's touch. The hunters wavered. In the end, they left unarmed, bearing messages of peace instead of war. Cadence's compassion had turned blades aside. Yet not all trials yielded so easily. In the northern packs, a coalition of purest alphas gathered, refusing to acknowledge hybrid young. They drove out bonded pairs, left Fae children abandoned at borders. Ronan rode north in fury, but Cadence went with him, insisting strength must be tempered. At the great council ridge where dissenting alphas gathered under stormy skies, Ronan confronted them in man form, power rolling off him like thunder. "You defy the moon's will?" he roared. "The bond began with me, the first and purest. To reject it is to reject me." Growls answered. Challenges rose. But Cadence stepped into the circle, unafraid. Her presence alone quieted the storm winds. She spoke not of punishment, but of understanding. "I am the first child of such a bond," she said, "pearl white light glowing bright. Feel my magic. Is it weak? Is it lesser?" She wove illusions of the moon's approval, silver light bathing the ridge, memories of ancient songs celebrating unity. She touched the ground, and golden flowers bloomed even on bare stone. One by one, the purists lowered their heads. Not conquered by force, but moved by the undeniable beauty of what the fusion had created. When Ronan and Cadence returned, the rescued children came with them, welcomed into the growing Fae realms. Through these trials, the Fae halls grew stronger. Protective illusions cloaked settlements completely. Golden artifacts enchanted for defense, yet never aggression, healing groves that mended any wound. Cadence's wisdom shone clearest in how she honored both heritages. She wore circlets blending Ronan's moon-forged silver with Elara's royal gold. She taught Fae youth to run with wolf packs under full moons and to tend gardens with human tenderness. Riches, gold, jewels, crafted beauty adorned their halls not as greed, but as celebration. Earth's gifts shaped by loving hands, symbols of harmony achieved. Elara, visiting from Etheria more openly now, used her royal influence to quiet the loudest human fears, speaking of her own lost years as time spent in peace, hinting at alliances to come. Ronan stood guardian, his wild magic the shield behind which the Fae flourished. And Cadence, beloved, wise, radiant, held them all together with kindness stronger than any blade. The trials had tested them, but they had not broken. Instead, they had forged the Fae into a people ready for their golden age, and for the coronation that would proclaim their queen to the world. Chapter 9: Trials of the New People. As the Fae communities flourished in hidden glades and living halls of vine and crystal, shadows began to gather at the edges of their golden world. Word of the changed ones, children with pointed ears and strange magics, had begun to seep into the human kingdoms. Travelers spoke in hushed tones of villages where infants vanished into the forest, lured by glowing lights or animal calls. Healers who had once tended border folk now disappeared, drawn by bonds no human law recognized. King Aldrich's court in Etheria whispered of sorcery, of wolves stealing daughters, of a wild king who bewitched the innocent. Fear bred suspicion. Suspicion bred action. Scouts and hunters from Etheria ventured deeper into the forest than ever before, armed with iron blades and torches. Some sought lost kin, others came to root out what they called abomination. In distant packs, purest wolves, those who clung to ancient ways, growled of dilution. They claimed the wild magic was weakening, that allowing human blood into their lines would doom the packs to frailty. Ronan felt the rumblings first. His alphas brought reports during full moon councils, human parties skirting borders, iron traps set near known paths, angry howls from traditionalist packs refusing to acknowledge hybrid young. They call our children mongrels, one loyal alpha reported, fur bristling even in man form. They say the moon will turn her face from us. Ronan's golden eyes burned. The moon blessed the first bond herself. She will not abandon what she began. But he knew force alone would not suffice. The Fae were still few, their settlements fragile. Open war against human kingdoms or dissenting wolves would drown their newborn people in blood. Cadence knew it, too. On a night when storm clouds veiled the moon, she called the Fae together in the grandest hall yet grown. A vast chamber within an ancient tree whose trunk had widened into cathedral-like space, its walls veined with natural gold, and moonstone that glowed softly even in darkness. Hundreds gathered, young and old, wolf parent and human parent, all with pointed ears catching the faint light. Cadence stood at the center on a dais of living roots, clad in a gown of silver-green silk woven with golden threads. Her aura shone steady pearl white, calming the anxious murmurs. "My kin," she began, voice carrying like music through the hall. We face trials. The human world fears what it does not understand. Some of our wolfkin cling to old separations, but we are not abomination. We are harmony made flesh. The wild's strength and the earth's kindness united. A young fae, barely 10, asked in a trembling voice, "Will they come for us, with fire and iron?" Cadence knelt to the child's level, touching her cheek gently. Green gold light flowed, easing fear. They may try, but we will not meet hate with hate. She rose, turning to her parents who stood beside her. Ronan fierce and protective, Elara radiant with quiet resolve. My father will protect us with the wild's strength. My mother will guide us with diplomacy born of her royal heart. And together we will show both worlds that love, not fear, is the greatest magic. The first true test came sooner than expected. A band of Etherian hunters, sent by fearful lords, not King Aldrich himself, stumbled upon a small Fae outpost near the border. They saw pointed-eared children weaving illusions of golden butterflies, saw homes grown from living trees adorned with jeweled ornaments. Panic turned to violence. Torches raised, blades drawn, cries of monsters echoing through the trees. Cadence felt the disturbance like a wound in her own heart. She arrived with Ronan and a circle of trusted Fae before blood could be spilled. Ronan in wolf form at her side, massive and midnight black, a low growl rumbling warning. But Cadence stepped forward alone, hands open, aura flaring bright and soothing. "Lower your weapons," she called, voice gentle yet carrying unbreakable authority. "We mean no harm." The hunters hesitated. Her kindness radiated like warmth from a hearth, staying raised arms. She wove subtle illusions, visions of their own children playing safely, memories of gentle forests before fear poisoned them. One hunter, the leader, shook his head. "You bewitched our people, stole them." "No," Cadence answered softly. "Love called them, as it calls all who listen. See for yourselves." She touched the ground. Green gold light spread, healing scorched earth from their torches, coaxing flowers to bloom in moments. Nearby, a wounded scout, one of their own party nicked by a branch, was healed by a young Fae's touch. The hunters wavered. In the end, they left unarmed, bearing messages of peace instead of war. Cadence's compassion had turned blades aside. Yet not all trials yielded so easily. In the northern packs, a coalition of purest alphas gathered, refusing to acknowledge hybrid young. They drove out bonded pairs, left Fae children abandoned at borders. Ronan rode north in fury, but Cadence went with him, insisting strength must be tempered. At the great council ridge where dissenting alphas gathered under stormy skies, Ronan confronted them in man form, power rolling off him like thunder. "You defy the moon's will?" he roared. "The bond began with me, the first and purest. To reject it is to reject me." Growls answered. Challenges rose. But Cadence stepped into the circle, unafraid. Her presence alone quieted the storm winds. She spoke not of punishment, but of understanding. I am the first child of such a bond, she said, pearl white light glowing bright. Feel my magic. Is it weak? Is it lesser? She wove illusions of the moon's approval, silver light bathing the ridge, memories of ancient songs celebrating unity. She touched the ground, and golden flowers bloomed even on bare stone. One by one, the purists lowered their heads. Not conquered by force, but moved by the undeniable beauty of what the fusion had created. When Ronan and Cadence returned, the rescued children came with them, welcomed into the growing Fae realms. Through these trials, the Fae halls grew stronger. Protective illusions cloaked settlements completely. Golden artifacts enchanted for defense, yet never aggression, healing groves that mended any wound. Cadence's wisdom shone clearest in how she honored both heritages. She wore circlets blending Ronan's moon-forged silver with Elara's royal gold. She taught Fae youth to run with wolf packs under full moons and to tend gardens with human tenderness. Riches, gold, jewels, crafted beauty adorned their halls not as greed, but as celebration. Earth's gifts shaped by loving hands, symbols of harmony achieved. Elara, visiting from Etheria more openly now, used her royal influence to quiet the loudest human fears, speaking of her own lost years as time spent in peace, hinting at alliances to come. Ronan stood guardian, his wild magic the shield behind which the Fae flourished. And Cadence, beloved, wise, radiant, held them all together with kindness stronger than any blade. The trials had tested them, but they had not broken. Instead, they had forged the Fae into a people ready for their golden age, and for the coronation that would proclaim their queen to the world. Chapter 11. The Golden Age begins. With Cadence's coronation, the Fae realms stepped fully into the light, hidden still from fearful eyes, but radiant within their enchanted borders. A golden age dawned, unlike any the world had known. Under their queen's wise and gentle rule, the Fae flourished in perfect harmony with the wild and the earth. Their cities, grown rather than built, expanded into wonders of living architecture, vast halls within ancient trees, whose branches formed arching ceilings, veined with gold, bridges of woven vines that bloomed eternally, spires rising toward the moon, adorned with crystals that sang in the wind. Beauty was their creed, riches their celebration. The Fae loved gold and jewels not with the grasping hunger of mortals, but with reverent joy, as the earth's most precious gifts, shaped by loving hands into symbols of enduring harmony. Rivers were gently coaxed to yield their golden sands, forged into delicate filigree that enhanced illusions or healed the spirit. Caves offered moonstones and gems, enchanted into artifacts of power and grace. Necklaces that amplified kindness, allowing healers to mend entire groves. Crowns that focused wild strength into protective wards. Goblets that filled with starlit water, granting visions of peace. Craftsmanship became art. Art became magic. Fae artisans, drawing on human ingenuity tempered by wild instinct, wove tapestries of illusion and silk that shifted with moonlight, depicting the great love story of Ronan and Elara in living scenes. They crafted wings of golden light for moon dances, shimmering behind pointed ears as couples swirled in eternal courtship. Music filled the glades, harps strung with silver threads plucked by wind itself, songs that coaxed flowers to open in rhythmic waves. Cadence walked among her people daily, never distant on a throne. She tended gardens with children, teaching them to blend green-gold harmony with pearl-white fusion, coaxing golden roses laced with silver veins to bloom year-round. She ran with the wolves under full moons, her laughter mingling with their howls, illusions of starry skies enhancing the night's glory. She sat with elders, both Fae and the aging bonded pairs who had birthed this people, listening to stories, healing old sorrows with a touch. Her rule was one of example, not command. When disputes arose, rare but inevitable in any growing people, Cadence resolved them with unwavering compassion. A young Fae jealous of another's greater illusions, she would weave a shared vision of beauty, showing how unity amplified gifts. A border skirmish with wary humans? She sent emissaries cloaked in gentle glamour, bearing gifts of enchanted jewels that brought prosperity to villages, turning fear to wonder. The golden age rippled outward. Animals thrived as never before, herds healthy and abundant, forests lush and unblighted. Loyal wolf packs grew stronger, their wild magic enriched rather than diluted, proven by the fierce protection they offered Fae settlements. Even Etheria felt the change. Elara, now openly visiting as Queen Mother, brought tales of her daughter's realm. King Aldrich's court softened. Trade in enchanted crafts began secretly, Fae gold and gems for human silks and spices, fostering quiet alliances. Ronan, the eternal Alpha King, stood as guardian. His presence alone deterred aggression. He trained young Fae in wild strength, teaching shifts for those whose magic allowed it, honing senses, channeling moon power into shields rather than claws. Yet even he softened under the golden age's glow, spending evenings with Elara in their original cottage, watching fireflies dance as they had in their courtship days. Cadence herself embodied the age's heart. She wore gowns of living silk embroidered with golden threads and moon silver, her dual crown a constant reminder of heritage. Her aura shone steady and warm, a beacon that drew more bonded pairs and their children from distant lands. Moon dances became grand rituals, thousands gathering in vast glades, illusions of auroras and golden wings filling the sky, songs of gratitude rising to the moon that had started it all. One such night, as a harvest moon hung ripe and orange, Cadence stood atop a crystal dais addressing her people. "We live in balance," she said, voice carrying like melody on warm wind. "Wild freedom and gentle nurture, strength to protect, kindness to heal. Riches not hoarded, but shared, as the earth shares her gold and gems with open hands." She raised her arms and illusions bloomed, a vast golden palace of light rising around them, rivers of pearl-white magic connecting every heart. This is our golden age, born of love, sustained by love, eternal through love. The Fae cheered, voices like bells, howls like thunder, laughter like tinkling streams. Healing groves spread, where any weary soul, Fae, wolf, or rare trusted human could find renewal. Artifacts of beauty multiplied, golden mirrors showing true hearts, jeweled orbs granting peaceful dreams. And through it all, the love story that began it echoed. Young Fae couples courted beneath the same ancient oaks where Ronan and Elara first joined. Children learned the tale by hearthfire, how a fierce alpha king met a kind princess, how wild magic and nature harmony merged in sacred union, birthing the first Fae. Cadence watched it all with quiet joy, her parents at her side. Ronan's hair now touched with silver, yet his eyes still burning gold, Elara's beauty undimmed by time's gentle hand. Our dream made real, Elara whispered to Ronan during one quiet dawn, as golden light filtered through their cottage vines. Our legacy enduring, he answered, drawing her close. The golden age stretched onward, centuries of beauty, harmony, and wonder. The Fae had come into their own, and their queen, born of the greatest romance the wild and the earth had ever woven, reigned with a heart full of the same eternal love. Chapter 12. Legacy of Love. Centuries flowed like gentle rivers through the Fae realms, yet the golden age endured, timeless, luminous, a testament to the love that had birthed it all. Cadence reigned with the same grace that had marked her from childhood, her wisdom deepening like roots into ancient soil, her kindness a constant light that warmed every heart. The Fae people multiplied and thrived, their hidden cities expanding into vast interconnected wonders. Forests where every tree sang in harmony, glades where moonlight pooled into lakes of liquid silver, halls adorned with treasures that told stories of earth and moon entwined. Gold and jewels remained their delight, crafted into ever more exquisite forms. Crowns that whispered guidance to wearers, necklaces that preserved memories in glowing gems, artifacts that bridged distances with illusions of presence. Yet never did greed taint their joy. Every piece was shared, gifted, celebrated as the world's beauty made eternal. Ronan and Elara, granted long lives by the fused magics that bound them, aged with elegant slowness. Ronan's midnight hair gained threads of silver that caught moonlight like frost, yet his golden eyes burned as fiercely as in his youth, his strength undimmed. He roamed the borders less now, content to counsel from the original cottage, still their private haven, ivy-cloaked and blooming eternally. There he taught young Fae the wild ways, the thrill of moonlit runs, the deep songs of the packs, the protective fire of alpha instinct channeled into guardianship rather than conquest. Elara's auburn curls softened to rose gold with time, her green eyes holding the quiet depth of ancient forests. She bridged the human world still, her diplomacy weaving subtle alliances. Etheria and other kingdoms traded openly now with Fae emissaries cloaked in gentle glamour, exchanging knowledge and crafts. Her royal blood had paved the way for acceptance, whispers of the lost princess, who found greater purpose turning to tales of admiration. Together, they watched their legacy unfold. Cadence never took a mate. Her heart, vast as the realms she ruled, poured its love into her people. Suitors came from among the Fae, drawn to her radiance, but she smiled gently and turned aside, content in the completeness born of her parents' union. My bond is to you all, she would say, to the balance we maintain. Evenings often found the three together in the cottage hearth glow, hands entwined as in Cadence's childhood. Ronan would recount old hunts, voice rumbling with affection. Elara shared stories of human courts softened by Fae influence. Cadence listened, her pearl-white aura mingling with their silver and green gold lights, weaving them anew. One such night, under a moon as full and silver as the one that had witnessed their sacred union, Ronan drew Elara close. Our love created wonders, he murmured, golden eyes soft. A people, a queen, a world of beauty. Elara leaned into him, tears of joy shining. And it endures, in her, in them, in us. Cadence smiled, placing her hands over theirs. Lights flared gently, silver, green gold, pearl white, swirling in perfect harmony. The legacy is love, she said softly, wild and gentle, fierce and kind, human heart and wolf soul, it will never fade. As ages turned, Ronan and Elara eventually sought the quiet rest of the deepest glade, a sacred place where Fae elders lay beneath blooming trees, their essences returning to earth and moon. Even then, their love lingered. Illusions of their forms sometimes appeared in moonlit dances, guiding young couples. Golden roses bloomed eternally at their resting place. Cadence ruled on, her reign a beacon through uncounted years. The Fae spread carefully, never conquering, always harmonizing, carrying their pointed ears, their fused magics, their love of crafted beauty into hidden corners of the world. They guarded forests, healed lands scarred by mortal folly, whispered peace into troubled hearts. And always the origin story was told, of the Alpha King who felt the mate bond for a kind princess, of wild magic meeting nature's harmony, of the first child who became the first queen. In every hall, golden tapestries depicted it. In every song, moonlight dances honored it. In every heart, the legacy lived. Love, deep, instinctual, bridging worlds had created the Fae. And love, enduring and luminous, would sustain them forever. Epilogue. Echoes through eternity. And so the Fae endured, long after the names of human kingdoms had faded into dust, and the great packs of old had woven themselves into legend. Their pointed ears became the gentle signature of a people who walked lightly upon the earth, their pearl-white magic a quiet light that healed what mortals broke. They lived in hidden realms of eternal bloom, forests where golden roses climbed silver vines, rivers that sang with enchanted waters, halls adorned with treasures crafted not from conquest, but from reverence. Gold as sunlight captured, jewels as stars brought close. The Fae never forgot their beginning. In every glade, tapestries of illusion and living silk retold the tale. The lonely Alpha King, who followed a scent of honeysuckle and kindness across the border. The gentle princess who touched dying oaks back to life and, in doing so, touched a wild heart. The sacred union beneath the watching moon, where silver fire met green gold light and birthed something entirely new. Children with newly pointed ears learned the story by hearthlight, wide-eyed at how love, fierce and tender, wild and compassionate, had bridged impossible worlds. Young couples courted beneath the same ancient oaks, whispering vows that echoed Ronan and Elara's. Moon dances still began with a moment of silence, honoring the first bond that made them all possible. Cadence, the first Fae Queen, reigned through uncounted ages. Her beauty never faded, her wisdom only deepened. She walked among her people as sister, not sovereign, laughing with artisans as they forged new wonders, running with wolves under full moons, healing scarred lands with a touch that carried her mother's kindness and her father's strength. Even when Ronan and Elara finally lay down beneath the golden roses of their resting glade, their essence lingered. On quiet nights, illusions of them appeared. Ronan in midnight wolf form, padding protectively around gatherings. Elara with auburn hair unbound, smiling as flowers bloomed in her footsteps. Their love had become part of the Fae magic itself, eternal, woven into every pearl-white glow. And the world beyond changed. Human tales spoke of fair folk in distant woods, beautiful, elusive beings with pointed ears who left gifts of enchanted gold for the kind-hearted and gentle warnings for the cruel. Wolves in deep forests were said to bow to moonlight figures who sang with voices like bells. Yet the Fae remained guardians, not conquerors. They healed quietly, loved deeply, crafted beauty endlessly. Their riches, golden circlets, jeweled artifacts, halls of living crystal, were celebrations of the earth's generosity, reminders that true wealth lay in harmony. On the clearest nights, when the moon hangs full and silver, the forests still whisper the ancient names: Ronan, Elara, Cadence. And if you walk softly enough, if your heart is open enough, you might hear faint music on the wind, tinkling laughter like bells, the rustle of golden wings, the deep contented rumble of a wolf at peace. For the Fae live on, their pointed ears a gentle reminder of the wild spirit that once roamed free. Their love of beauty and riches a celebration of the earth's endless gifts. Their kindness, the living echo of a princess who healed with her heart. Their strength, the enduring fire of an alpha king who dared to love across worlds. All of it born from one extraordinary love story. A love that bridged beast and mortal, wild magic and gentle harmony, moon and earth. A love that created a people of wonder and dreams. A love that echoes through eternity. Listen closely, beneath the rustling leaves and the silver moonlight. The forests still remember. And they are still singing.